Hello and welcome to our new blog, and we're blogging about humanities and social sciences, and what you're looking at there is an obscured view of our offices here in Buckley. And I work in humanities and social sciences, but in Oxford we don't have an architecture department, and in the case of our office that's probably a good thing because I don't think they'd have much to say about it. But anyway, it's a great old building and we all working there. There's about 80 of us and we work in covering largely STEM subjects, medical sciences, physics, chemistry, that sort of thing. But this blog's going to be about humanities and social sciences, and it's a very difficult thing to sort out. And Craig is my victim behind the camera today, so Craig, if you could just turn around and not look at that anymore and look at me instead. Hello. So I am leading the activities in the Humanities and Social Sciences divisions of the University of Oxford, and one of the big problems that the sector faces at the moment is, yes, we've developed a formula for making impact from STEM subjects, but how do we do that in humanities and social sciences? Well, we're not the first to have a go. There have been other universities across the country and across Europe who've done a good job of doing it, but what we're doing as part of the Aspect programme that we're working with on LSE is to just talk about what we're doing and how do you get going. So how did I start in humanities and social sciences? So I joined as an engineering and software specialist from the BBC. I got an email from this guy. This is Richard Holliday. So you want to zoom in on there? Now he doesn't work with us anymore, but he was my first line manager here. And in January 2016 he said to me, we need to start doing something in humanities and social sciences, go sort it out. So how do you start? Well, I hadn't actually started all the work. The work was actually started by this wonderful lady here, and this is Susan Clark, and she works in consulting services, and she'd gone and had various meetings with all sorts of academics to talk about the opportunities that they have through consulting. But Susan also found that we'd best work in tandem with somebody from what was then the tech transfer team and is now the licensing and ventures team, and that's when I came along. And one of the things that we thought that might be a good way of starting things off and getting people to say we're interested in making impact with our research was to start a competition. And that was actually quite a coincidence, because this guy, who I know very well in Cambridge, so this is Richard Palmy, and I went to Pembroke College, Cambridge, so don't say it too loud, Craig. I went to the other place. I'm a tab on the inside. Anyway, so Richard Palmy is he's one of the Cambridge Angels, and he's a fellow now of Pembroke College, Cambridge, and he has an innovation competition. And it's a very easy innovation competition. Just tell us the idea and we'll help you make that idea grow. And the first running of the competition was in about 2005, I can't remember exactly. And there I am in 2005. I finished second, so I entered into the first competition. I finished second. I finished second to this guy over here. And he had a crazy idea about micro antennas on silicon chips. It was a great idea. Never actually worked, but I finished second because I had something along the lines of a business plan which might work at some point in the future, and it would have done if somebody had given me £2 million. Anyway, I'm going by the by here. But a few years ago, Richard invited me back because I was starting to work in tech transfer to be actually one of the judges on the competition. And in Cambridge, I've been judging this competition for a little while. And when Susan said, why don't we start a competition? I thought, well, why don't we just copy and paste Richard Palmy's competition and run it here in Oxford? And so that's what we did. Now, Craig, you're going to have to really zoom in here. So this is the application form here, and I'll try and hold it still so you can actually zoom on it and look at it. So as you can see, it's really straightforward, right? And the thing about application forms, you know, when you're doing grant applications or job applications, they ask you extremely long questions and they give you pages and pages to answer. It's almost like writing a thesis sometimes. And that causes a problem because people don't have the time to write them, and more importantly, people on judging panels don't have the time or the inclination to read them. So what we wanted to do was to encourage people just to say in just a few words what the crazy idea they've got is, to make the application as easy as possible. And this is what it is. So, you know, what's your name? Which faculty, department or college are you affiliated to? Anybody else on your team? What's your connection with the Humanities Division? So this was focused, a competition that we decided to focus on the Humanities Division. And what's your title? And then all it was describe a summary of your idea in 200 words, or hopefully less. Who do you think is going to be interested in it? And what would you do with the money if you get the money? Money. How much money? Well, £1,000 prize money. So it's not an awful lot of money, but it's not an awful lot of work in order to apply for it. What we do, we get, we've had a mixture of we've run it 3 years now. In the first year we got about 15 applications, in the second year we got about 18. This year was a bit of a barren year, we only got 10 or so, but what it's done is it's smoked out some really good ideas from Oxford, and it's given us leads in the Humanities Division that we otherwise would not have had. Really cheap way of doing it. So this was the winner of the first competition. This is Alexa Litle, and she was actually not in the Humanities Division, but she was working with somebody who was. She had done a research project in Mexico on subsistence farmers who grow pinole, which is a blue corn, and it's a really good source of carbohydrate for people who want a slow release. So is that a low GI or high GI? You can tell I don't know, not very good at life sciences. But anyway, it's really good for people who want to do marathon running or running at high altitudes, things like that. Releases the energy really quickly, really slowly. And so she thought it'd be really good to be able to import that into the UK and to Europe. And so she wanted these subsistence farmers to double their yield, and to sell whatever they've left over that they're not going to use for themselves over to the UK and make some money out of it, and then try to bring these farmers out of poverty. Anyway, so she won the prize with that, and she's had great fun trying to import blue powder from Mexico through Dover, but she's got things working now. She's done some high energy bars, and it was the thing that really started the process off for her. She did a Kickstarter project, and now she's got some funding to take things forward. So she was our success story in the first year. The second year, here is Dan Holloway. So Dan Holloway is in the linguistics department, the Faculty of Linguistics and Phonetics, and he is the creative thinking champion of the world 2 times over. In fact, he is the first person who's ever been able to defend his title. So this is one clever dude, and he's really interesting to listen to. He's a prolific author. He gives public lectures and things like that. And he's developed a game. He called it Mycelium, based on the massive fungus that grows in Oregon, which is interconnected, with the idea being that the game is there to inspire creativity. Now, he thought he was going to be selling this game at conventions and things like that, which he still is going to do, but actually we've found since he won the competition, that his primary business is going to be training boards of big companies to think in more creative ways, and this is about to spin out at the moment, so we're very excited about this one, and we've been helping him all along the way. But it's worth saying is that, alright, you get 2 winners and we've been able to help them in any way that we can, but what we're doing it for is to grow the pipeline, and so we want to help anybody who comes to us with a good idea. They usually come a bit, earlier in the process than you would from a typical STEM subject. Normally you've got some research results where you can file a patent or something like that. Don't really need to file a patent in this space. Or sometimes they've got a great idea that they want to make an impact with. Margaret Coombe here from history. She finished about 4th in the first competition, and she is a teacher, and she has been she's been giving study skills sessions to people who are really struggling in the Oxford system. Now, having been somebody who went to the other place, I actually struggled quite a bit with studies, especially in 3rd year there. I had panic attacks and things like that. She gives people the skills, teaches them how to manage that, the stress of Oxford and Cambridge. Anyway, we helped her do a marketing video and things like that. She just rang me up on Monday to say that she'd got funding for £100,000 and she was going to do it out of Lady Margaret Hall. And that's going to launch in October, so we're very excited about that. So we've got that one going. Played a small part in that. Kirsten Shepherd-Barr, she didn't even make it into the final. She's in the English faculty. She's just obtained, how much was it? Tens of thousands of pounds, about £35,000 from our University Challenge Seed Fund to build an app called Litle, which is going to get more people, especially young people, to read. And so it's definitely got a social mission there. And these are our winners from this year. So we had a 1st place, a 2nd place and a 3rd place, and there's me in a ridiculously stripy suit, which doesn't come out very well on television, but I wore it anyway. And we've had some great ideas here. We've got Catherine, who won. She wants to do something called 3D Prime, which is making things accessible to visually impaired people in museums, so recreating artifacts that people can touch. Accessible archaeology here from Caroline Thurston. That's a great idea to make archaeology sites more accessible to people as well. So those are the sorts of things that come through. How much does it all cost to run? It costs about £2,700 to run it each year. But you get that money back very quickly, because you end up creating spin-outs, doing service agreements, all sorts of things that can come out of the research. But you can also, we've been very kindly sponsored by Pennington Manches, the lawyers who work with a lot of our spin-outs, and Parkwalk advisors who help us advise and manage our investment funds here in Oxford. So all in all, it only cost us about 750 quid to run the whole competition. Definitely worth running, and with lots of support from the Humanities Division and Torch, that's sort of the outreach arm of the Humanities Division as well. So there's an example of how you can build your pipeline relatively easily, find out what it is that you've got going on in the university, and I do recommend, if you're starting from scratch, that this is a really good place to start. Right, back in 2 weeks. Well done, Craig, you followed me very well there. You might get you to do it again. Anyway, see you later. Bye.